hot like a heater. My neck done froze like winter. I'm feeling young.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Debbie O, also known as the Tech Babe. Today we're doing a long-awaited video that I've been meaning to film for like maybe 3 years, but we're here now, and that's essentially how I broke into product management. And I've been getting a lot of questions on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and via text messages, and so I thought it'd be good for me to actually compile it into a video as to how you can break into product management, and then talk about some questions that I've been asked, some myths, and then maybe in the next video we can actually talk about my full-blown path, and what I would do if I was to start over again, if I was a fresh grad or an industry hire. So let's get into it. But if you see me look down, it's because I have some notes. How you can break into product management. I was watching a lot of videos, and I must preface this by saying that a lot of the videos on the internet, whether it's from TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, mostly came from an American perspective, which was useful for like 40% of the way, but the other 60 I did struggle, because if you don't know, like the UK and the US are very different places, so even in terms of company cultures and what they're requiring can be quite different. So I watched a lot of videos on like how to break into product management. I break into product management with no coding experience, and I realized that most of the stuff that they were talking about is, number one, internal transfer, which I do think is important and can work if you're working in a big company essentially and they do already have a product function, or you are working in a startup and you also have a great manager and they don't necessarily mind creating that role for you. In my case, that wasn't the plan. I actually did number 2, which is work in a product adjacent role. What that means is I was working as a business analyst, I was working as a scrum master, I was working as a product owner for about 3 years, until I decided to actually take the applications very seriously and transition last year into product management. I shouldn't have taken that long, but I need to say that that was like my own personal journey. I personally think you can do it in a quicker time frame. I took that long just because I believed God was telling me to like still stay in the place that I was in already and complete my time and to build up the skills there. And to be completely frank, it was even good, because when I say I didn't understand the product management world fully, and I definitely believed I did until I entered it, and then I realized that I was going to final stage interviews for senior product roles, which is just good. I'm gonna pat myself in the back. Yeah. However, the pay was not making any sense. And because I was so desperate into breaking into that industry at the time, I thought that, this was the pay scale. And because it was in the pay scale, even a little bit more, that was perfect. In hindsight, I would have been underpaying myself, cutting myself short by a mile, just because they wanted people to do senior product management responsibilities on a product manager, and even sometimes an associate product manager role. I also believed that because I had worked before, I didn't want to go down the route of taking an associate role. So to be completely honest, when I was applying for the associate roles, I was getting through very, very quickly, and which was fab, but the remuneration and the package at hand at the time just didn't make sense, because it was literally the same thing that I was on. And paths into like the senior product, I wasn't even clear about the different heights or the different structures essentially within product management. So I just thought, if I take this now, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. So I was adamant I wanted to go straight into the product management role, which is just above the associate role, and then it goes senior, and then there's, depending on the company you work for as well, there's lead, and then there's head. Head and lead can be the same thing, but sometimes they like lead, head, and then like director. So I didn't want to do the associate because I had already worked a good couple of years. Despite working in product adjacent roles, I just didn't think that suited me at the time. And I was adamant I wanted it to be a media product because I really enjoyed the fact that I can see the changes that I was making when I either watched something or I interacted with the app, or if I was one of those people that actually sent in my complaints myself. So that was my thought process behind it. So another way you can actually break into product management is by doing a product course. These are becoming more and more popular. I see them via product school, product gym, Cambridge University, Oxford University, LSE, like different universities are now offering, whether it be masters or some sort of qualification or course to allow people to become a product manager. I didn't do that just because I think because it's not industry standard, for example, with like project management or like Scrum Master or one of those careers, it's very clear like here, these are the qualifications you can get, and they all kind of cover like the same sort of thing. Because product management and even that product area in itself is quite new, I believe that you can kind of get in. I still believe you can get in without actually having to sit those courses by gathering those skills from working, doing some other side projects which we'll talk about, and just upskilling yourself in other ways. However, if you do have the resources in terms of cash, and you do believe it's beneficial, but then by all means do a master's. It's better to have like another degree under your belt. Or if you think it will be beneficial by doing the courses because you've also never done it before, or you don't have the resources to learn those adjacent skills by doing another role, then that could be something to look into. But higher education can be quite expensive, so bear that in mind. Another way to break into tech, and I believe that this was quite super beneficial for me and quite pivotal as well, is attending networking events and also networking online. And I know that this can be quite nerve-wracking. I even posted a video, which I'll link, where I talked about having to learn how to network as a 20-something-year-old and just thinking about, like, I'm an adult. These are the skills that I should have, potentially perfected whilst I was at uni. Like, I did network at uni. I did one of those courses that was quite good for networking, but I always shied away from it. And because, to be honest, it kind of like pushed the people that were, their faces forward. I don't mind taking the back seat. I just didn't mind being in the back. If you spoke to me, I spoke to you. And, that's how we had a good chat. But in this case, you do need to be a tad bit more proactive with reaching out to people, in the space that you're interested in, i.e. product management, but picking specific industries, and also going to networking events for product managers or product management adjacent roles. So if there's an event for a product designer or just a designer in general, attend that, because they are the people that are talking to the product managers. They can also tell you what it involves, because these are the people that you will probably be speaking to once you're doing the role. And that was something that I was doing. Obviously that 3-year period-ish was during COVID. And so actually attending in-person events wasn't something I could do, but there was quite a lot of online events that I attended and also spoke to, like, I was booking calls as if my life depended on it with people all across the world. You know, in hindsight, I probably would have tried to focus for people within the UK, but it was good, and nevertheless. Also, I would, whilst you're, you know, going to these events, go on LinkedIn and kind of check the path people have taken before. I know it's probably a given and some of you already know this, but you will kind of realize, especially within the UK, that there is no clear route, especially if you're not going for a technical product manager trajectory. With technical product management, most of the people kind of had that technical skill before, but for others, they were working tech adjacent roles before, and an employer saw that they could do the job and was willing to take a chance on them. And that's what I will like make sure is key in this video, is an employer needs to take a chance on you. So don't be disheartened. Don't be disheartened, because I was doing interviews left, right, and center. 30-minute calls, 30-minute calls, 30-minute calls. And after 30-minute calls, I wouldn't get far. Then later on, I would get through the first stage. Then something will happen. Second stage, something happened. Even to the final stage, I remember there was one. I was in love with that girl. Me and the one of the other product managers got on like a house on fire. Is that the saying? And I was just thinking, yeah, okay, all right. I then had a chat with the CEO, and to be completely frank, I kind of knew that chat with the CEO wasn't 100. I just feel like we weren't vibing. And yeah, I finished, and the feedback I got was that I wasn't that creative. That's funny. But that was them, and that was also when I realized that, hey, you need to really know your stuff. You need to know the industry. You need to know the market in general. So that's my 2 pence on how one can break into product management, how they can transition if they do not come from a technical background, if they've never done it before. This is what I've also heard from other people, and other people that I've advised and they've got roles have said that it's worked for them. I also wanted to preface this by saying that I understand that there are a lot of layoffs going on right now within the tech industry. Don't be disheartened. That could potentially mean that the role you're looking for might take a tad bit longer to get, but it is possible. I am living proof of that. It just might take some time. Well, let's move on to our question. So one question I got was it worth it? Was the wait worth it? And like I mentioned briefly before, yes, the wait was worth it. I thought I knew about product management, but then turns out I absolutely did not. I did not in terms of the actual market itself. In terms of, I thought I researched, you know, the different salary. Didn't research that enough. I was using, again, the American formula to do things and do it in the UK. And one thing about the UK, because it's not standardized at the moment, a couple companies can do whatever. So if unless you're like applying for big tech, that formula is still the same. I did a couple interviews for some of them. I was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, the American way of doing things, this makes sense. But for the other companies, they're kind of just operating on vibes. In addition to that, remuneration, was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it. Again, I was really adamant that I didn't want to do an associate position, because I kind of felt like I could learn the skills on the job if somebody just gave me a chance to do so. And if I was like if it was a year later, I probably don't think I would have minded potentially doing an associate role, because the salaries would have been the same, and then you would have hopefully got the support from like a manager, worked through like the competencies and had a bit more of a hand holding, because I was coming in, I actually got quite a bit of hand holding to be fair, shout out to my manager, but I was kind of expected to know certain things, and I had done in those tech adjacent roles some things before. Why did I actually want to break into product management? And that is because, like, nothing fancy, it's just that I really enjoyed seeing things go from launch all the way to discovery, whether that's a digital product, whether that's a physical product, whether that's a financial product. It just really intrigued me, and I watch a lot of videos, be it documentaries on like the tech process of how, you know, founders created their products. And I thought to myself, I mean, I don't have a product, but how do I help support someone else's dream in doing so? And maybe one day I could do the same. That's the, you know, the why behind it. Some common myths I wanted to debunk, or just make sure that people are aware of, is, do you want the tech role, or do you want to work in the tech industry, or do you want both? And I say this to make sure that you don't make certain mistakes, because some people, just when I speak to certain people or they message me on like Instagram, I get the like sense that they just want to work in big tech, and there's honestly nothing wrong with that. Like, go and do that. But do you necessarily want to be a product manager? The why is not making sense, to be frank. Some people want to be a product manager, but they don't really mind as to like what industry they're working at, and I think that can be helpful. But I would still say pick 3 key industries that you are interested in and look into what product management looks like in all 3 of them. And if you want both, then definitely watch people that have done it before, speak to people, network with them as mentioned before, go to events, and that will hopefully make it all the rest easier. And it's been said before that becoming a product manager could potentially make the process of becoming a founder one day particularly easier. And one thing about me, I actually enjoy wearing many different hats. Being a product manager allows me to do so. Like my day-to-day, when I say, oh, like no day's the same, like for real, it varies depending on what's being called upon me. Maybe I do have already a set plan, like I know that some sort of test has to happen, but in terms of what's going on in my inbox is a different thing. Depends on what's going on Slack is a different thing. Depending on what I've seen on the actual product itself is a different thing. Depending on what who I get a call from is a different thing. So product management allows you to kind of be a jack of all trades and low-key a master of none, but you're a master of the product or the feature or whatever that particular process is at the time. And that's super important. So one thing this year is I am trying to, so one goal for me this year is to definitely connect with more product managers within the UK. It doesn't actually matter like the industry they're in. I think it'll be quite cool. There's so many that I've started seeing in different networking events, and it makes me happy that there are more of us. And you know, it's good to have this network because you never know. I might want to move into that industry and they might want to move into this industry, and we can just share knowledge, talk about salaries, talk about work cultures, talk about all of these things, and hopefully just learn from each other and have that support network. Because yeah, for a new career, when a new sort of, new-ish career where it could be seen as quite hard, where there isn't many people that's still doing it, it's still quite new, there's no industry standard per se. Yeah, I think it's very important. But I really do hope you've enjoyed this video and understood a bit more as to how you can break into product management. And like, comment below, have you done it before? Do you resonate with some of the things that I've talked about? What would you like for me to talk about next? I'm open. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
MJ on the sheet, thriller, 45 every night.